Have you ever woken up from a dream so bizarre that you questioned reality itself? Well, buckle up because today we're diving into a nightmare that's playing out in broad daylight. And spoiler alert, we're all the starring actors in this cosmic joke. Picture this. You're scrolling through your phone at 2 a.m., watching a video of someone explaining why the Earth is flat while standing in front of a NASA poster. Your brain does that little hiccup thing. You know, the one where logic tries to process pure absurdity and just gives up. That moment of cognitive dissonance. That's not a bug in the system, my friend. That's a feature. See, we're living in an era where collective stupidity isn't just knocking on our door. It's moved in, eaten all our cereal, and is now redecorating the living room with conspiracy theories and hot takes that would make a medieval peasant blush with shame. But here's the kicker. This isn't some modern phenomenon. Oh no, we've been perfecting the art of mass delusion for millennia. We just got really good at it recently. Think of it as humanity's longest-running sitcom, except nobody's laughing anymore because we forgot it was supposed to be funny. The ancient Greeks had a word for this kind of collective madness. 8. Divine delusion sent by the gods to make mortals do spectacularly stupid things. Turns out, we don't need gods anymore. We've democratized delusion. We've made it accessible, shareable, and infinitely scalable. We've turned stupidity into a social media platform. You know what's fascinating? Every single person thinks they're the rational one. Every single one. We're all Neo in the Matrix, convinced we've taken the red pill, while everyone else is still plugged into the simulation. But what if, and hear me out here, what if we're all just swallowing different colored pills and calling them red? This isn't just about politics or conspiracy theories, or why people think pineapple belongs on pizza. It doesn't fight me. This is about something deeper, more primal, more terrifyingly human. This is about how our magnificent, reality-bending brains, the same computers that put us on the moon and invented TikTok dances, can simultaneously be our greatest asset and our most spectacular liability. So if you've ever wondered why your intelligent uncle shares memes about chemtrails, or why your college-educated neighbor thinks birds aren't real, or why you yourself sometimes believe things that would make your rational brain file a restraining order against your emotional brain, stick around. We're about to take a journey through the looking glass of human consciousness, where nothing is quite what it seems, and the only certainty is uncertainty itself. Let's start with a story that'll make you question everything you think you know about intelligence. Meet the Ash experiments, a psychological study that basically proved we're all just very sophisticated sheep wearing human costumes. Picture this. It's 1951, and Solomon Ash invites people into a room for what he calls a vision test. Simple enough. Just match the length of lines on cards. A monkey could do it. A blindfolded monkey having a seizure could probably do it. The answer is so obvious that calling it a test is like asking someone if water is wet. But here's the twist that would make M. Night Shyamalan jealous. Everyone else in the room is an actor, and they're all deliberately giving the wrong answer. Not slightly wrong, spectacularly, obviously, embarrassingly wrong. They're looking at a line that's clearly 3 inches long and saying it's 6 inches. It's like watching someone point at the sun and insist it's the moon. Now, what do you think our brave test subjects did? Did they trust their eyes? Did they stand up for objective reality? Did they channel their inner Galileo and declare, and yet it moves? Nope. 75% of them caved like a house of cards in a hurricane. They looked at a 3-inch line, heard everyone else say 6 inches, and thought, well, I guess my eyes have been lying to me my whole life. They chose social harmony over sensory evidence. They picked belonging over being right. This isn't stupidity. This is survival. For most of human history, being kicked out of the tribe meant death. Your ancestors who disagreed with the group about which berries were poisonous might have been right, but they were also dead. Meanwhile, your ancestors who went along with the crowd, even when the crowd was wrong, lived to pass on their go-with-the-flow genes. We are the descendants of conformists. We are the evolutionary success story of people who valued getting along over being accurate. Is it any wonder that we live in a world where everyone's doing it is considered valid reasoning? But it gets weirder. The same brain that makes us conform also makes us rebel. We're simultaneously desperate to fit in and convinced we're special snowflakes. We want to be part of the group, but we also want to be the main character of our own story. It's like being stuck in a psychological rom-com where you're simultaneously the love interest and the rival. This creates what I like to call selective conformity. We conform to our chosen tribes while rebelling against everyone else's tribes. The flat earther conforms to flat earth community standards while rebelling against mainstream science. The organic food enthusiast conforms to wellness culture while rebelling against big pharma. Everyone's a conformist and a rebel, depending on which angle you're looking from. And social media? Oh, social media is like Ash's experiment on steroids, cocaine, and energy drinks. Instead of one room with a few actors, we've got billions of rooms with billions of actors, all performing different versions of reality. You can find a tribe that will validate literally any belief you want to hold. Think the moon is made of cheese. There's a Facebook group for that. Believe that trees are government surveillance devices. Welcome to the community, fellow truth seeker. The algorithm doesn't care if you're right or wrong. It cares if you're engaged. It feeds you more of what you already believe, creating echo chambers so perfect that they make actual echoes seem quiet by comparison. We're not just conforming to our immediate social groups anymore. We're conforming to invisible digital tribes that span the globe and confirm our biases 24/7. Here's the existential crisis part. If everyone's reality is socially constructed, and everyone's living in their own custom-built echo chamber, then whose reality is real? Are we all just characters in our own choose-your-own-adventure books, making up the story as we go along and calling it truth? Now that we've established that we're all basically sophisticated parrots repeating what our favorite tribe tells us, let's talk about why our brains are so spectacularly bad at this whole thinking thing in the first place. Meet your brain, 3 pounds of organic matter that somehow convinced itself it's in charge of a 150-pound meat puppet. It's simultaneously the most complex structure in the known universe, and a device that can be fooled by a magic trick involving a coin and some misdirection. It's like having a supercomputer that runs on caffeine and anxiety, programmed by evolution's drunk uncle. The problem is that your brain wasn't designed for the modern world. It was designed for a world where the biggest threats were saber-toothed tigers and running out of berries, not navigating cryptocurrency markets and determining whether that article about climate change is legitimate science or sponsored by fossil fuel companies. Your brain has 2 main operating systems, and they hate each other like feuding roommates. There's System 1, fast, intuitive, and about as reliable as a chocolate teapot. This is the system that sees a stick in the woods and screams snake before you can blink. It's great for keeping you alive when a lion is charging at you, but terrible for processing complex information about global economics. Then there's System 2, slow, deliberate, and energy hungry like a Bitcoin mining operation. This is your rational mind, the one that can do math and think through problems logically. The catch? It's lazy. It only turns on when it absolutely has to, and the rest of the time, it lets System 1 drive the car while it takes a nap. This creates what psychologists call cognitive biases, systematic errors in thinking that occur when System 1 is doing jobs it's not qualified for. It's like letting your pet dog file your taxes. Sure, they're trying their best, but the results are going to be creative. Take confirmation bias. Your brain's tendency to seek out information that confirms what you already believe while ignoring everything else. If you believe that coffee is good for you, your brain becomes a heat-seeking missile for studies about coffee's health benefits. That study showing coffee might cause anxiety? Never heard of it. That research about coffee helping prevent Alzheimer's? Suddenly your brain is a research scientist, bookmarking and sharing with religious fervor. We don't seek truth. We seek confirmation. We don't want to learn. We want to be right. It's not about expanding our understanding of reality. It's about protecting our ego's investment in our current beliefs. Changing your mind isn't just admitting you were wrong. It's admitting that your entire worldview, your identity, your sense of self might be built on a foundation of wishful thinking and motivated reasoning. But here's where it gets really wild. Our brains are so good at protecting our beliefs that they'll literally rewrite reality to maintain consistency. Ever heard of choice supportive bias? After you make a decision, your brain goes back and edits your memories to make that decision seem more obviously correct than it was at the time. It's like having a personal historian whose only job is to make you look good in retrospect. You buy a car, and suddenly your brain starts noticing how terrible all the other cars are. You choose a college, and suddenly it's obviously the best choice you could have made. You pick a political candidate, and suddenly their flaws become features while their opponent's virtues become suspicious. We're all living in our own personal reality TV shows, and our brain is the producer, director, and editor, making sure we always look like the hero of our own story. We're not experiencing reality. We're experiencing our brain's highly edited, highly biased, heavily filtered version of reality. And this is where collective stupidity gets really interesting, because it's not that we're all individually stupid. We're actually quite smart at protecting our existing beliefs, at finding information that supports our worldview, at maintaining psychological comfort in an uncertain world. We're just not very good at the thing we think intelligence is supposed to be about: accurately perceiving reality. The scary part: the smarter you are, the better you get at motivated reasoning. High intelligence doesn't make you more likely to be right. It makes you more likely to be wrong in sophisticated ways. You get better at constructing elaborate justifications for your biases. You become a more elegant, articulate, convincing version of wrong. Intelligence, it turns out, is like a lawyer. It doesn't care about truth, it cares about winning the case. And the case it's always arguing is why I'm right and everyone else is wrong. The evidence is just props in the performance. So when we see collective stupidity, when we see large groups of intelligent people believing obviously false things, we're not seeing the failure of intelligence. We're seeing intelligence working exactly as designed, just not for the purpose we think it should serve. Let's take a field trip to one of the most magnificent displays of collective stupidity in recorded history. And no, I'm not talking about the internet comment section, though that's a close second. Picture the Netherlands in 1637, during what historians now call tulip mania. This wasn't just any ordinary economic bubble. This was a civilization temporarily losing its collective mind over flowers. Not gold, not land, not magical potions that promised eternal youth. Flowers. It started innocently enough. Tulips were new to Europe, imported from the Ottoman Empire, and they were genuinely beautiful. The wealthy developed a taste for them, particularly the rare varieties with unique patterns and colors. So far, so rational, rich people buying pretty things is hardly news. But then something magical happened. The market discovered that tulip bulbs could be treated as investments. Why enjoy a flower when you could speculate on flower futures? Why smell roses when you could leverage tulip derivatives? Prices began to climb, and climb, and climb some more, until they reached heights that would make cryptocurrency enthusiasts blush. At the peak of the mania, a single tulip bulb, one bulb, not even a full flower, could cost more than a skilled craftsman made in an entire year. People were trading houses for handfuls of bulbs. A brewery was exchanged for one tulip of the coveted Viceroy variety. But here's the beautiful absurdity. Most people weren't even trading actual tulips. They were trading promises of tulips, contracts for bulbs that were still in the ground, IOUs for flowers that wouldn't bloom for months. They had created a complex financial derivatives market for a product that was literally planted in dirt and would die in a week. The entire Dutch economy reorganized itself around tulip speculation. Farmers abandoned food crops to plant tulips. Sailors quit their ships to become flower traders. People mortgaged their homes to buy into tulip syndicates. The whole country became a casino where the chips were flowers and the house always won, until it didn't. And then, one day in February 1637, reality crashed the party. Someone, nobody knows who, decided that maybe, just maybe, paying a year's wages for a single flower bulb wasn't the smartest financial decision. The bubble popped with the sound of a nation's dreams deflating. Fortunes evaporated overnight. People who had been millionaires in tulip money woke up to discover they owned garden variety debt. The Dutch economy crashed so hard that it took years to recover. All because an entire civilization convinced itself that flowers were more valuable than food, shelter, and basic common sense. Now, before we get too smug about those silly Dutch people and their flower obsession, let's talk about 2008. Remember when the global economy nearly collapsed because banks convinced themselves that giving mortgages to people who couldn't afford houses was a brilliant business model? Or how about the dot-com bubble, when companies with no revenue No products and no coherent business plans became worth billions of dollars because they had .com in their name. Pets.com, a website that sold dog food, burned through $300 million in venture capital before anyone asked the obvious question: why would someone order dog food online when they can buy it at the store down the street? Or more recently, when people spent millions of dollars on digital pictures of monkeys because someone told them they were non-fungible tokens that would revolutionize ownership in the digital age. We took the concept of owning something, made it completely abstract, applied it to images anyone could copy with a right click, and called it the future of investment. We are still the same humans who went crazy for tulips. We just dress it up in fancier language now. We don't call it flower mania. We call it market dynamics and innovative financial instruments. We don't trade in tulip bulbs. We trade in derivatives, futures, cryptocurrencies, and NFTs. But it's the same basic pattern. Take something of questionable value, add speculation, multiply by social proof, and watch rational people lose their minds. The scary part isn't that these bubbles happen. It's that they happen predictably. Every generation thinks it's smarter than the last one, right up until the moment they're explaining to their children why they mortgaged the house to buy digital cartoon apes. But here's the existential twist. These bubbles aren't bugs in the system. They're features. They're not accidents of human psychology. They're inevitable expressions of how our brains work. When you combine our need for social belonging, our tendency to follow crowds, our fear of missing out, and our ability to rationalize anything, you get tulip mania. Every time, without fail. The market, that supposedly rational mechanism for determining value, is actually just a massive manifestation of our collective cognitive biases. It's not wisdom of crowds. It's madness of crowds with spreadsheets and PowerPoint presentations. And the most beautiful part, even knowing all this, even understanding the psychology, even studying the history, we'll do it again. We're probably doing it right now. Somewhere, somehow, there's a new tulip growing, and we're all staring at it thinking, this time is different. Because that's what we do. We're the species that convinced itself it was rational while simultaneously proving, over and over again, that rationality is just another story we tell ourselves to feel better about our beautifully chaotic, wonderfully irrational, magnificently stupid human existence. The question isn't whether we're rational beings who occasionally act irrationally. The question is whether we're irrational beings who occasionally stumble into rationality by accident and mistake it for our natural state. So here we are, having established that we're conformist rebels living in a world designed by our biased brains, participating in collective manias while convinced we're the rational ones. The natural question becomes, what do we do about it? Well, I hate to break it to you, but we're pretty much stuck with this beautiful disaster we call human consciousness. You can't debug millions of years of evolution with a weekend workshop on critical thinking. You can't patch the human operating system with a software update. We're all running on legacy code that was written by natural selection, and natural selection was definitely not thinking about Twitter when it designed our threat detection systems. But here's the thing about being aware of your own limitations. It's simultaneously liberating and terrifying. Once you realize that your brain is basically a very sophisticated storytelling machine that's constantly editing reality to protect your ego, you can start to appreciate the artistry involved. You're not just living life. You're co-authoring an epic fantasy novel where you're the hero. Everyone who agrees with you is wise, and everyone who disagrees with you is either evil or tragically misguided. The first step in dealing with our collective stupidity is accepting that we're all participants in it. There's no escape pod from human psychology. There's no secret technique that makes you immune to cognitive bias. You can't think your way out of thinking. The people who claim they've transcended human nature, they're just experiencing a more sophisticated version of the same delusions, like thinking you've escaped the matrix while you're actually just in a fancier simulation. But acceptance doesn't mean resignation. Understanding how magic tricks work doesn't ruin the show. It makes you appreciate the skill involved. Knowing that your brain is constantly lying to you doesn't make you depressed. It makes you curious. What story is it telling today? What reality is it constructing? What evidence is it ignoring to maintain this particular version of the world? One of the most powerful tools we have is intellectual humility. The radical idea that maybe, just maybe, you might be wrong about things you're absolutely certain about. This isn't about becoming wishy-washy or abandoning all beliefs. It's about holding your beliefs lightly, like birds that might fly away if you squeeze too tight. Try this experiment. Think of something you're completely certain about, something where you can't even imagine being wrong. Now ask yourself, what would it look like if you were wrong? What evidence would you expect to see? What would have to be true about the world for your certainty to be misplaced? This isn't about becoming a skeptic about everything. That's just another form of certainty wearing a disguise. It's about developing what Zen Buddhists call beginner's mind, approaching even familiar topics with curiosity instead of conclusions. Another useful practice is seeking out your own echo chambers and deliberately stepping outside them, not to argue or convert anyone, but to genuinely understand how the world looks from a different perspective. If you're liberal, spend time really listening to thoughtful conservatives. If you're conservative, engage seriously with progressive ideas. If you're religious, explore atheist philosophy. If you're atheist, study religious thought. The goal isn't to change your mind about everything. It's to understand that other perspectives exist for reasons that make sense to the people who hold them. Everyone thinks they're the protagonist of their own story, and everyone has reasons for their beliefs that seem compelling from inside their own experience. But perhaps the most important thing we can do is cultivate a sense of humor about the whole situation. We're all just highly evolved primates pretending we understand what's going on, living on a spinning rock in the middle of an infinite universe, convinced that our temporary arrangements of matter and energy are cosmically significant. If that's not inherently absurd, I don't know what is. The ability to laugh at our own certainty, to find joy in our own confusion, to appreciate the cosmic joke we're all participating in. That might be the closest thing we have to wisdom. Not because laughter solves anything, but because it reminds us not to take ourselves too seriously in a universe that's already pretty good at keeping us humble. We're never going to solve the problem of collective stupidity because it's not a problem to be solved. It's a feature of consciousness to be appreciated. We're not broken machines that need fixing. We're beautifully complex systems that work exactly as designed, just not for the purposes we think we were designed for. And maybe that's okay. Maybe the goal isn't to eliminate our biases and become perfectly rational beings. Maybe the goal is to become more graceful dancers with our own limitations, more skillful storytellers in the narratives we can't escape, more generous companions to our fellow travelers in this strange journey of being human. After all, in a universe that's mostly empty space and dark matter, the fact that matter organized itself into patterns complex enough to worry about being wrong about things is pretty miraculous. We're the universe becoming self-aware, even if that self-awareness comes with a hefty dose of self-deception. So here's what we've learned on our journey through the funhouse mirror of human consciousness. We're social conformists who think we're independent thinkers, using biased brains to navigate a complex world, participating in collective delusions while convinced we're the rational ones, living in a reality that's constantly being edited by our own psychological needs. And you know what? That's not a bug. That's the most beautiful feature of all. We are the universe's attempt at understanding itself. And like any ambitious project, it's messier than originally planned. We're not the pinnacle of rational thought. We're something far more interesting. We're meaning-making machines in a cosmos that doesn't come with an instruction manual, doing our best to write the story as we live it. The next time you see collective stupidity in action, whether it's your political opponents, your social media feed, or that face in the mirror, remember that you're witnessing the same miraculous process that created art, music, love, science, and the occasional flash of genuine wisdom. We're all just walking each other home in the dark, using the light of stories we tell ourselves to navigate the beautiful uncertainty of existence. And if those stories occasionally lead us to value tulips more than houses or digital monkeys more than common sense, well, at least we're never boring. Thanks for taking this journey with me into the heart of human absurdity. If you found yourself nodding along, questioning everything, or laughing at the cosmic joke we're all part of, you know what to do. Though I won't insult your intelligence by telling you exactly what that is. After all, you just spent the last few minutes learning about how easily we're all influenced by suggestion. Sweet dreams, fellow participants in this grand experiment of consciousness. May your delusions be pleasant and your moments of clarity Be frequent enough to keep things interesting.